Last week on the show, we talked about fall nitrogen applications and just how careful you have to be. With phosphorus, it's a completely different discussion. We're going to talk about how you need to apply fall phosphorus in most cases.
Here's the big thing with phosphorus. It just doesn't move much in soil. Now, if you've got complete sand and a CEC of 1, you may disagree with me and say, well, I can get it to move a little bit, but I tell you what, if there is anything to your soil, if you've got a little bit of organic matter, if you've got a little bit of clay out there, this stuff just doesn't move. In fact, in our heavy soils where we farm and a fairly dry environment most years, we can't get phosphorus even to move a 1/4 inch. So we really need to put it where we want it. By placing it a little bit deeper, you can speed up the process by decades of moving phosphorus down.
The reason why I say we like fall applications of phosphorus is because it doesn't move in soil, it's great to just get this done. Now, the only exception would be if you're worried about soil erosion, because like Darren said, phosphorus doesn't move in soil. So if you lay your phosphorus on the soil surface and you don't till it in, well, now if you have any erosion, guess what's going to leave the field along with your soil? Your phosphorus. So we do like putting that phosphorus down in the ground, either injected or tilled in.
This is a really big deal for the no-tillers out there. Now, if you're in conventional till and you say, look, I'm going to spread it on top of the ground, I'm going to till it in 6 or 8 inches or even deeper, okay, you're moving most of that phosphorus down deep. But if you're a no-till, you absolutely have to inject it, put it on 2x2, something to protect that and get it down deep, because phosphorus is the limiting factor for algae growth in fresh water. If we have any of that phosphorus on the surface that erodes, that can cause a problem quickly.
One of the biggest questions we get with phosphorus is tie up in the soil. What can happen is if you have excess calcium or excess aluminum or iron, you can have tie up with that phosphorus, and all of a sudden you applied phosphorus, you spent money, and now it's not available for the plant. So ideally what we're looking for here is get your soil pH into the 6s, and now you're going to find more of your phosphorus is just available in your field. So that's what we're after. That way you'll have a lot less tie-up.
The other thing with availability, Brian, is getting it closer to the row. We've done a lot of banding of phosphorus over the years on rented ground. This is a great way. If you say, wow, phosphorus doesn't move, I don't want to put it out there and leave it for whoever's going to rent this ground after I'm done. I understand that. We've got ground like that. So we want to put that phosphorus a little bit closer to the row. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the furrow. It sure can be, but you can also put it over in a 2x2 or a 2x2 on each side of the row, or you can do strip till and place it throughout that root zone where you're going to be growing and just spread it out in your 8 or 10 inch wide strip.
One of the other important things you got to keep in mind here is, again, since phosphorus doesn't move in the soil like nitrogen does, or even sulfur or boron for that matter, your plants are not going to bring in all the soil's phosphorus in one shot. What I'm saying here is you have to have extra phosphorus there because your plants can't access it all right away. So if you need 100 pounds, you probably better make sure you have at least 200, 300, 400 pounds sitting there ready to go, available in the soil. What we encourage you to do first is take a look at the Ag PhD fertilizer removal app, put in your crop, and look at the total phosphorus that your crop is going to need for your yield goal. And then again, if it's me, I'm going to make sure I have plenty of extra out there, because phosphorus isn't just going to move around in the soil and your plants aren't going to magically find 100% of the soil's phosphorus.
Here's the other thing, Brian. Don't just look at NP and K on a soil test. You've got to look at the micronutrients and secondary nutrients too. For example, whenever I think about phosphorus, I think about zinc, because if we get a lot of phosphorus out there in our soil, we have to have a lot of zinc too. If they're not in balance, at least in a 10-to-1 ratio of phosphorus to zinc, we're going to have some issues. So if you're at a 30-to-1 ratio where you've got 30 parts per million of phosphorus, 1 part per million of zinc, you desperately need to get some zinc out there for this year's crop, and I would be applying that now as well.
And it works the other way. On our farm, what's happened is we have some areas where we have too much zinc in relation to the phosphorus. Well, as we get more phosphorus out there, our yields go way up. So make sure you're getting that ratio. Darren said 10-to-1. I'd say 8-to-1 to 12-to-1, somewhere kind of in that range. That's a pretty good place to start.
Well, phosphorus is a very important nutrient. Your crop needs a lot of it. As Brian mentioned, just go to the Ag PhD fertilizer removal tool, type in your crop and yield goal to find out exactly how much you need. We recommend placing it down into the soil, injecting it somehow to protect it from erosion and also to make it more available for your crop's root system.
Well, unfortunately, when you do a great job with phosphorus for your crop, you will also have done a great job of phosphorus and raising more of our weed of the week. But we'll tell you how to stop this tough weed coming up later in the show.